This video is sponsored by me. Please subscribe. Bucchigiri is a show I honestly wasn't expecting when it first came out. Everything about the show when I first watched it screamed that it might be great. From the character designs, to the music, to the story being directed by Banana Fish's Hiroko Utsumi, and of course, the fact that it was an original anime from Studio Mappa. The same studio that made Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan Final Season, and Vinland Saga Season 2, that Studio Mappa. Now you would believe all of this would be the perfect recipe for success, right? It's a Mappa original anime directed by the Banana Fish lady. There's no way on earth Mappa would spend $1,680,000 on a show, and that show would be one of the most disappointing anime I've seen in my life. Right? Right, now for legal reasons I want to make it very clear to you that the title is clickbait. I don't know how much money was used to make Bucchigiri, but a lot of money was used to creating this anime, and I wish the people who invested in this show's creation would get a refund because this ain't it, chief. So to really show you my problems with the show, we need to start at the beginning. Plot of the show is really interesting. Imagine for a second if instead of getting the ability to travel back in time, the protagonist of Tokyo Revengers got a JoJo standard that gave him the ability to hit harder. This is the main draw of the show. In the beginning, it hooks you with this premise of this pathetic loser of a main character getting these really cool powers and finally being able to stand up for himself to fight strong, muscular dudes like it's an episode of Baki. And instead of giving you that, the show gives you this.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
I hate this. Look, I'm not one of those people who hates the perverted main character or underdog trope. If I was, then Mushoku Tensei wouldn't be in my top 5 favorite anime of all time. My biggest issue with this trope and how it's used in Bucchigiri is the fact that it makes the main character and the side characters so fucking unlikable. Tropes are never a bad addition to a story. Some of the best stories are the ones that have tropes in them, and the best ones are the ones that are able to deconstruct the trope to tell an even better story. 100 Girlfriends is a show built solely off its tropes. Karane takes being a tsundere to the highest extreme, but throughout my entire viewing experience, not once did I feel like the reappearing trope of her character archetype felt like it was getting stale. I think it's because the person behind the story knew when and where to pull back before the joke got stale. In Bucchigiri, the opposite of this occurs. The main character is a bitch who hates fighting. Let's make him wanna shit his pants whenever he has to fight. This got stale by episode 3. The main character's love interest is a brocon. This got stale by episode 4. The main character's former best friend clearly won't accept the fact that the person he idolizes isn't the person he thought he was. This got stale by episode 5. The story feels like it wants you to care about these characters, but at the same time doesn't want to give them any ounce of decent character growth that would get you to that point. I get that the main appeal of this show might be for fujoshis. For those of you in my audience who don't know, fujoshi translates to rotten girl or female anime and manga fan who enjoys seeing the relationship between men. In other words, this was probably meant to be a yaoi. And before you say, the main character likes women, I'd agree with you if the director was anyone besides the director of Banana Fish and Fruit. The real issue with this show isn't the homoerotic tension all the men in this show have with one another, although I do believe that if this show went full yaoi, it would actually have made the story even better. No, the real issue is the main character. Arajin Tomoshibi is our main protagonist. He's someone in the beginning, you know, the writers don't want you to like because of how pathetic he is. He treats his mom like shit. He avoids fighting because he knows he's weak. He ditches his own friends if it meant saving his own skin, and he would most definitely lick toilet water if a cute girl asked him to. But he's also someone who's burdened by the fact that he's so helpless in front of people who are much stronger than him. He's someone who struggles with communicating his feelings, and because of that, he isolates himself from the only people who care about him. This is brilliant writing. but it's also really fucking stupid. I'm no stranger to pathetic scumbag characters who struggle with internal conflicts. Those are actually my favorite types of characters, but I don't like these characters because they stay pathetic. I like them because of the growth they experience throughout the story. Arajin doesn't experience any change throughout all 12 episodes of this show. We get hints of the type of character he could be if he stopped chasing a love interest who doesn't reciprocate his feelings, but we never stay on these moments for too long. It's hard to like someone so unlikable, and if the point of his character is for him to be unlikable, then the writers failed at that too. Writing an unlikable character is different from writing a character that the audience doesn't like. What do I mean by this? Let's take Griffith from Berserk for example. Oh, already off to a bad start. Griffith is one of the most well-written villains in any medium. When he's first introduced in the story, you don't really understand why Guts hates him so much, and even during the Golden Age, you don't understand why Guts would come to hate Griffith until the end of the arc. Griffith is able to charm the viewer with his presence because of the way he presents himself. He's this regal, almost saintly figure that feels like he could do no wrong even when he smiles at the death of a child. It's only until you get to the eclipse and you see the depths Griffith is willing to go to if it results in him achieving his dream. Spoiler alert for any non-Berserk readers, but Griffith kills the Band of the Hawk and violates the one person who would have died for him in front of the man she loves. Griffith is a character so hell-bent on achieving his dream that he's willing to do horrible acts if it gets him closer to it. And I believe that when Miura wrote him, he did it in a way he knew the audience would never like him as a person, but they would like him as a villain. Miura wrote an unlikable character that the audience likes. If there's any people who want to argue with me that using an antagonist is probably a bad example, I agree with you. So let's use Rudeus for Mushoku Tensei then. Rudeus is a character that gets a ton of hate, and justifiably so. Rudy is a terrible human being in the beginning of the series. A lot of his behavior is very gross, and he almost does something to Eris that would probably get me demonetized if I said it, so I won't. But Rudy's entire story is him learning to become a better person, not only for himself but for the people he cares about. Whether it's intentional or not, the universe has a way of teaching him the error of his ways. My personal favorite is when Eris beats the shit out of him for trying to take advantage of her. And this is a learning experience for him because he actually learns the importance of consent from this point onwards. Up until this point, we haven't really seen how disgusting Rudy is as a person from his previous life, but from this point onwards, I really started to cheer for his character growth, and seeing the parts where he would stumble and fail really hurt me because I knew the type of person he could be. Rudy is a character meant to be unlikable, but later becomes likable. I don't get this with Arajin for 98% of the show. He's being an insufferable little shit that refuses to fight, that refuses to talk to his best friend, that refuses to do anything besides trying to get his dick wet. And for the 2% where he does act like a decent human being, that's only because the writer wanted to show that he is a good person. But all of that gets overshadowed by the fact that any sort of character growth is limited to the singular episodes where he isn't being the bane of my existence for the entire episode's runtime. I want to like this main character because I believe there is an amazing character underneath the trash we were given. Someone the audience would genuinely root for given the chance. Growth is gradual. It isn't instantaneous, and I wouldn't want his character to be someone who changes at the drop of a dime. And this isn't a thing exclusive to Arajin, but everyone else on the cast as well. So how do we fix this Instead of this series trying to be a comedy, let's remove that element and instead focus on the drama elements of the story. One of the things I wish the anime would have focused on was the relationship between Matakara and Arajin. The idea of having them try to reconnect as best friends would have been appealing if instead of Arajin trying to avoid his best friend, they actually did want to reconnect as friends, but struggled with that because Arajin abandoned him when he got the JJK treatment. You could even have the love interest be the person who ends up causing more strain on their relationship. There's an episode in Bucchigiri where it's implied that Mahoru might have had an attraction to someone who isn't her brother. I think this romantic conflict would be an interesting way of getting the both of them to understand how much they care about one another. I'm okay with even letting her set up Arajin to get his ass beat by her brother as a way to set up how toxic their relationship is in the beginning, and Matakara would be the person to save him from the ass beating, while also getting rid of Senya and the blue guy. I forgot his name. Shut up. Episode 5 would be the episode where Mahoru chooses Matakara over Arajin before the major conflict of his brother getting stabbed and put in the hospital happens. Matakara would still want to be friends with Arajin, but the feelings wouldn't be reciprocated because Mahoru has come between them. That would put a strain on Matakara and Mahoru's relationship. And before episode 9 happens, she asks if they can take a break because something happened with her brother. He probably got stabbed too. I don't fucking know. And because her brother is recovering in the hospital, she can't be there for him when he needs comfort. This would isolate Matakara and put him on the verge of spiraling. He'd attack all the people around him because he's always felt like people abandon him in his time of need. And the person who comes to save him would be Arajin. Episode 10 to 12 would be the episodes focused on showing how both Matakara and Arajin deal with their depression after the relationship fell apart when they tried to fix it. Matakara, unlike Arajin, wouldn't have anyone around him, but Arajin would have his mom to help him process and tell him to forgive himself and fix his relationship with Matakara because they are friends, and friends don't give up on each other no matter the circumstances. The show would end pretty much the same way it did in the anime, but this time Matakara would get his ass beat as punishment by all the people he fought before they forgive him. Mahoru and Arajin would even become friends, and she introduces him to a friend from school. The end. This is just fanfiction, so you don't have to take it seriously. If you like Bucchigiri's plot the way it is, I won't judge you. I just feel like the story wasted its potential and honestly did not need to exist. It had the potential to be amazing, but that just didn't happen. And wasted potential is something I hate than something having no potential. Counting up bread, I'm stacking up cheese. I'm 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 counting up bread, My first mistake was believing that this show would be great, and it is, but only on a visual level. The show is amazing to look at. The fight choreography is immaculate, the location and background art is eye-catching, the character designs are all unique and display the personality of each character perfectly. If you ask me to pick out any of these characters in a crowd, I'd do it in a heartbeat. And let's not forget Mappa torturing their animators to give us the juicy visuals of episode 12. But a story can't only be held up by the strength of its visuals alone. It's like an onion, you know? It has layers. Great visuals should be like the frosting on a cake. They are there to dazzle you from the mediocre bullshit you are probably watching. I read somewhere that the reason this show is so bad despite the people writing and directing it is because Hiroko Utsumi was working on another anime and was pulled from that project to make this one. And if that is true, it really shows you why this show doesn't feel like any love was put into it. It was because it was made by someone who didn't want to work on it, and that sucks. On a visual level, Bucchigiri is really fun to watch, but the terrible plot and the annoying characters don't do anything except show me how wasted their potential is. It's no secret to anyone how popular high school delinquent series have started to get over the last couple of years. Tokyo Revengers was really the bomb that set this back off in 2021, and while it isn't the first delinquent series made, it did revive what was basically a dying genre. If you want to watch or read a good delinquent manga, read Nine Peaks, and despite how much I disliked the ending, Tokyo Revengers is still pretty fun to watch. Watch the anime until the Tenjiku arc, by the way. Don't read the manga, just let the story end as a semi-good show. Would I recommend you watch Bucchigiri? No! We're 14 minutes into the video. How have you not realized that you shouldn't watch this shit? That's been it from me though. Subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and leave a comment as well. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this show, and if you like Bucchigiri, tell me why in the comments. I respond to those. I'll see you guys later.